Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jeremy Gall. I was the founder of a company called FlipKey, which was acquired by TripAdvisor. And when Simon this morning was talking about how he got his properties on, the first to get his properties on TripAdvisor, that was because Simon and I sat down in Orlando in 2008 when we were early to the distribution game to put his properties on FlipKey, where we were the sole provider of rentals to Trip for many, many years. Sorry about the guys on this table over here. They told me I can't go past this line for the camera, even though I'm usually a little more interactive. We did that for a while, grew that to a pretty big business through TripAdvisor. And the reason why we did that was because we felt there was a need in the industry for better brand recognition. We started that company really based on guest reviews and the ability for people to promote their brand in ways that they weren't doing so before. There were no guest reviews in vacation rentals. People had testimonials on their website, but nowhere were they able to collect reviews at the time, which we thought was pretty strange. And we also thought it was really important to property managers so they could set themselves apart. That industry's changed dramatically over the last 10 years since we did that. Now there's guest reviews everywhere, obviously on Airbnb and every channel that you use. It's hard to believe that it wasn't like that before. But I think that also illustrates some of the changes that have happened so quickly over the last few years. And now I'm come back to the industry with a new company, which I'll tell you a little bit about at the end. But beforehand, I want to preface why I did that, because it's important to our conversation today. I did that because what I see as the next trend in vacation rentals and in even larger property management segment is that caring for the property and the way that you work with the property is going to become the next big opportunity for this industry. It's going to be the way that property managers can differentiate themselves and in many ways even justify what they're doing. It's hard, I believe, and I think it's getting even harder to justify your commissions and fees. Oh, nice, Simon's here. He's in the presentation, actually. He's quoted from this morning. I'm glad. Controversial. It's becoming harder and harder to justify your fees if all you're doing is the booking, when owners can do that booking on their own. And I think this is really what's going to happen next. It's a really big trend, and it's about adapting to your strengths. This is Carlo Ancelotti. He's a famous football coach in Europe, and he's famous because he's good at changing the game plan and his approach to the players that are on his team. He's won so many championships because he can adapt to the tools that he has at his disposal. So that's the theme. Happy to be here. This is what it looks like in Boston. I've actually been able to use this slide for presentations over the last month because it's looked like this in Boston for the last month. And I've told you a little bit about why I love this dynamic industry. There's another thing about it that I think makes it so exciting. This is a very complicated business. Being a rental manager requires a very wide, diverse set of skills. It's an inherently local business for most people. And I think there probably couldn't be a harder business to be in. So you should congratulate yourselves for taking on a pretty impressive challenge. And why is it so hard? There's two sides to every operation. Quickly, to set the table here, I've talked a little bit about it before. These are my kids. This is the sanitized view. This is the front office view of your marketing and your. Alan's presentation was great about the videos and how you put your best foot forward. So this is best foot forward of my family. This is the front office. But there's the back office work that needs to be done every once in a while. which can be a little dirty and messy, but it's necessary. That operation piece of it doesn't go away. And my wife was here earlier. I'm glad she's not here now because she would be upset that I'm showing my son in such a predicament. But so 2 quotes to get us started. And I've been told I have to be a little quicker, so we're going to sort of breeze through a couple of things. But I love this, and I think you should think about it and start to embrace it as well. In a nutshell, this is a quote from Jeff Bezos, and he talks about how he's so much more interested in what's not going to change over the next 10 years, because that's what you can build a stable business around. And I look at this when I think about the vacation rental industry, and I think, I don't know what's going to happen over the next 10 years with different booking engines and how people are going to continue to market in the face of some real challenges from the OTAs and a lot of growth from the OTAs. But I do know one thing, and that is that no matter what happens, people are going to go on vacation. People are going to rent vacation homes because it's a great product. And when they show up, the property is going to have to be clean. The property is going to have to be well maintained and cared for. It's going to have to be safe. And someone is going to make sure that that happens. That is a real job that cannot be taken away. And quite honestly, I think a lot of other things in this industry are really in flux. I'd say we're about halfway through maturity, and a lot is going to continue to change. But that's one thing that's not going to change. And I think you should keep that in mind. I certainly do with how I think about it. And now this is fresh from this morning. This is Simon's quote. And now to be fair, this is in the context of agencies. But his quote was, renting out someone's house, just doing that piece of it, it's not that compelling. What does that really mean? I think, through my lens, what that means is that you have to deliver more service. You're in a very unique challenge here because we already talked about it. It's a difficult business. We're going to talk more about this, but it's a difficult business. You don't have lots of time. You're capital constrained. You're getting compression on fees, and I'm going to hit on these all a little bit again. And yet, people like me and people like Simon are telling you that you need to do more. Despite already having a hard job to do and feeling a little bit of a squeeze, you're being told that you need to do more and that guests expect more. And I absolutely agree with that. I just think you have to meet those challenges head on. And I'd like to give you a couple of tools here and tips on how I think you can do that. So we're going to go through 3 big ideas. Adjust with the market. So we're going to spend a few more minutes, and I'm actually going to go through it a little faster to make up time because we heard a lot of these concepts from Simon this morning, and I think it's sort of getting buried into you. But I do want to spend a little bit more time on consumer demands, and then I want to talk about leveraging your superpower. And here's where it'll be a little controversial, and I'm going to take a different approach than what Simon says and what you might hear otherwise. So first of all, the market dynamics. And stop me for questions. I had a little interactive part of this at the beginning, but I'm shaving it so that we can get through this. And if we have time, we'll do it at the end. This is my version of the marketing is competitive. This is apparently women's underwater rugby, which I can't imagine anyone would actually want to play, but at least these women did. And it's just fierce. And I think it's just going to continue to be this way. I sold my business to what is now an OTA. I don't think Trip would have considered themselves that before, but they certainly are now. And the OTAs, it's very difficult. They're your partners. They're your marketing partners, absolutely. And they're important to your business. But at the same time, because of the relationship that you have this co-competitive type relationship. Because like we heard in the last session, you want to bring in as many people to your own websites as you can so that you're not totally dependent on the commissions you have to pay the OTAs. That's a difficult dynamic, and it's a very difficult one to win. And I think we are all starkly aware of that fact, that when every home is unique and people know where they want to go on vacation, but they want to be able to see everything that's available, the OTAs have a very big advantage to that shopping experience. And you can't fix that. There's a way that shoppers will vote with their feet because it's a really good shopping experience. They can compare and contrast everything that they want to see. That's difficult. And you have unique limited inventory. Simon usually talks about this. Maybe Steve Milo will. But certainly in the US, and I know Vanessa had some stats about this when we chatted just about a week ago, the EU market is growing. In Europe, you're still getting more growth. But in America, you're not really seeing too much more vacation rental growth. And I would say in the EU, you're still growing by awareness. You're getting more second homes that are coming online. People are deciding to rent them. But you're not creating a lot of new inventory. There's only so many properties that are so well positioned exactly where you want to go on vacation. And that's a limited supply. Which means, for 1 minute, I want to hit on this. You do have some power, and we're going to talk about your operations superpower later. You have some power in the market in that you're the manager of these properties, right? But because the inventory is so limited, that power can only take you so far. In the end, the person with the real power is the person who owns the property. They're the ones that have full control of this limited subset of inventory. So demand can keep going through the roof as high as you want. All that's going to do is continue to shift power more and more to the property owner. So I'd like you to keep that in mind as well. And the pace of work is increasing. We'll sort of skip past this, but I think everyone realizes you're seeing more and more shorter-term rentals, more turnover. The properties are filled with more stuff. They're getting older. They're harder to maintain. You have hands-on owners who now, because they know that they could have thought about renting it themselves, or maybe they did, they're just becoming much more involved. And all of that puts a lot more operational strain on you as the property manager. And you're feeling the squeeze. And I think this is a trend that is irreversible, in my opinion. I'd love to hear from other folks if they think that's not the case. But marketing costs are going up. Even the folks from HomeAway would tell you this. It used to be easy. You could play the SEO game to bring in a certain number of free leads. The marketing costs that a company like an OTA now pays for new consumers, it's going up for them as well, but it's definitely going up for property managers. Commissions are going down. Owners have more and more options. Brand awareness is a big challenge. If you hear from somebody like Simon or you talk to Lino Maldonado from Wyndham, they'll tell you that despite their size, they've got a devil of a time trying to get people to remember that they actually booked with their company. And these are massive companies. And consolidation. Certainly in the US, there's a lot of consolidation. I think Europe's a little bit of a different beast. Some of that consolidation happened many, many years ago. But there's a lot of consolidation and convergence in the industry. So number 2, big concept, expectations. That's the Amazon smile, not by mistake. It's hard to be a great manager, and we've already talked about this, all the things that go into it. Part of it is the fact that your inventory is unique as well. Think about this concept for a second. Inventory and the shopping experience of vacation rentals is converging with hotels, right? And so now you have consumers, we keep hearing this, consumers that are expecting a hotel-like experience. That's wonderful. That's a great opportunity. Oof, it's pretty hard when your properties are all over the place. It's a little bit easier when the hotel has 100 rooms on site and they can help control that experience and deliver on that experience and that brand promise. It becomes a lot harder when you have 100 distributed properties that you don't even own. so you don't have full control over what's in them and how it's being maintained. I mean, when you start to think about it, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe this is what I have to do. And consumer expectations are going up. 76% of consumers, this was a study done, it's called the Amazon effect. 76% of consumers expect that a company can deliver a personalized experience just for them. It's amazing. When you think you can get anything you want delivered to your door in 2 days or sometimes in 2 hours, which is what the on-demand economy is like, you then begin, your mindset totally shifts and you think, this is the way I'm going to interact with every business. This is the way I should be treated as a consumer. Unless you're at the airport and about to get on a plane. Then all bets are off because the airlines don't give a shit. But owners care, and owners want more and more. And in my opinion, they don't just want, they need more help. Owners are unqualified to take care of their own property, and they're becoming more and more so. It's the most valuable thing that they own, and they don't know how to take care of it. And they would love to outsource more and more of it. And this is where we get to your superpower. I'm actually going to put this back for a second to introduce this. There's only one person, just like you're in a unique, I think that people in the rental management business are sitting on a gold mine. They're the only people that can facilitate this on-the-ground service for guests to make sure they come in and have a great experience. In addition, they're the only people that are so well positioned to deliver that service to owners. So I take the opposite approach of the unbundling. Maybe you should unbundle based on price, and you should charge differently for it, and make sure you're getting full value. But I think the real opportunity is not unbundling, but doubling down on the service that you can provide. I don't know where else you go, quite honestly. I don't think you have too much of a choice. If the marketing costs are getting higher and the commissions are getting lower, and you need to figure out how to make money, you need to figure out how to make money more helping these people who are so helpless. And that their position of helplessness is not going to change because of the unique dynamics of a second home. They don't live there. They need you to be there. They need you to provide as much service as you possibly can to them at the same time that you're providing as much service as you possibly can to the guest. And that's your superpower. But superpowers are a funny thing, right? Everybody has their weakness. Kryptonite, if you're Superman. Your maintenance team can be your maintenance and the way that you care for property and the way that you attract more owners, which is how Amy wanted me to introduce this, which is true. And we'll talk about it briefly if we have the time. Your property care program can either be your superpower, which totally differentiates you and helps you grow in the industry, or it can be an absolute liability. It's a liability when you don't know what's going on at the property, you don't feel comfortable about whether or not the next guest is going to show up, and you're crossing your fingers that it's clean and well maintained. If that's the case, and if that's the way you feel, then your property care program is a liability to your company because you risk bad reviews, you risk a bad experience, you risk a guest showing up and the Wi-Fi doesn't work. That wasn't a picture of my daughter, though she does make that face. You risk a guest showing up and the Wi-Fi doesn't work, and now you're behind for the whole stay. Now their radar's up and they're thinking, what's going to happen next? Something's wrong with this place, and I'm going to find it. That is a tough position to be in. So it's critical in that whole dynamic I just described to work smarter. You have to be more efficient. And I'm pleased to say I've been providing a version of this conversation and talk for about 1.5 years now at different events in the US. And when I started, no one else was talking about this. I'd show up at an event like this, and every other presentation was about marketing. Everything was about reservations. Everything that you were hearing was about how are you going to drive more bookings. Everything was front office related. And it's starting to change a little bit, where people are beginning to start talking about how important the back office operations are to the future of your business. And I think it's incredibly important, obviously, because you're in position to build relationships and capture value. And make no mistake, the big companies in this space and the OTAs in this space are paying attention to this. Your competition is paying attention to how they're going to tackle this challenge and deliver more value. So, 4 things I want you to think about for having a great property care program. How many people in here are just agencies, never touch the property? Anybody? Couple. Most other people are, so, but I'll say a word later about the agencies. I think they have the same challenges, and that they're going to want to go downstream and understand how the owners or the managers are getting this done, and they're going to have to figure it out. It needs to be coordinated, consistent. You really need to have solid communications that you understand, and last of all, which I think is the most important, is it needs to be comprehensive. And I'm going to run through these, and then I want to tell you about the big opportunity I think this provides for your homeowners, and then ask you a couple questions and open it up to questions. So, coordinated operations. There is so much to do. This isn't even a typical example, but there's so much to do in between every turn of a property to make sure that it's ready to go again for the next guest. We have some clients in the US who will, on average, they will do 6 separate tasks in between the guest leaving and another guest coming. Between linen drops, cleanings, inspections, pre-arrival inspections, hot tub or pool maintenance, separate preventative maintenance, and it really adds up. So it needs to be coordinated. You should think about your program when you lay it all out. Think about your program and think about, how do I coordinate one of these tasks to the next task? What happens when something goes wrong at the beginning of the chain? How do I react and evolve to make sure that nothing goes wrong at the back of the chain? Brand standards. How many people, raise your hand if you have documented brand standards for your company? Okay, a couple people. Hotel chains will have, right? Remember, we talked about there's convergence. You compete with hotels now, right? Does everybody think that they compete with hotels, depending on your market? Probably. Hotel chains will have 500-page brand standards so that they know that every room that someone goes into is set up identically to the next room. They don't do that for fun. They do that because they know that if they can set up those very prescriptive brand standards, they can start to eliminate the chance that something goes wrong. That's what it's all about. Some of it is about, part of that book is about fluff and pomp and circumstance of how you greet people and how they feel and interact with Hyatt versus Marriott. But a lot of it is the towels are folded this way. The sheets look like this. The bed is made like this. The trash can goes over here. And it always goes over there. And the reason is because if you do that, you can keep things consistent. It can be repeatable, and you can create a really good feedback loop. I would suggest to you, one of the things that's very interesting and a unique challenge is you need to develop brand standards, and then you need to tailor them to every one of your units, which is pretty important. But you can't stop there. You've got a team that's distributed. You need to synchronize their work and make sure they can get it done quickly. This is about platform communication and giving power to your staff to make sure they can get their job done. We use a lot of tools in this industry. People in vacation rentals have been quick to adapt software. It's time to start thinking about software that can help empower your team in the field to get their job done. I'm going to leave it on this one for a little bit to talk about this. I think this is what's the most important, and the reason why I got back into the industry, because I think this is a forward-thinking concept that is not really, that a lot of people aren't taking advantage of. And that is data. How many people, raise your hand if you use data in your marketing program? I mean, everybody, right? Come on. Get a little exercise here. I mean, if you're not using data while you market, I mean, pack it up and just hit the road, because you're done. If you're not using data to market your properties, you're done. If you're not using data to run your business, you're done. But what you're not doing for sure is using data to run your back office operations. And that's so important. You're working with unique properties. Everyone is different. You're really exponentially increasing your risks of things going wrong in this high turnover market. And if you could use data, it would help you out dramatically. What I mean by data is you're using the details of the property to get the job done. And I'll leave you with this because we're out of time and we're happy to continue to talk over the day. But this is your real soup. This is where you take and you combine the fact that you have a personal presence in the market, and you marry that with the fact that you know everything about your owners' homes. Why are they going to pay you to take care of their property? Because you know the most about their property, and you're demonstrating that value back to them. There's nothing better than providing the same service and charging more for it. All right? We'll skip the rest. Thank you. Questions? Yeah, I think that's a great challenge that we're starting to see. I think we're starting to see not just in vacation rentals, but in task management in general. You're seeing lots of new technology, my company included, that's putting an emphasis on that to say, you have a lot of people, it needs to be dead simple to just help them get their job done. Build some powerful tools for the admins, but the people that are in the field, if you build purpose-built software, you can make it really simple and accessible to people who are not tech specialists. They shouldn't have to be fair. Any other questions? Thanks a lot. Thanks for listening. I'm Jeremy. You can find me later.